Um, this is a continuation in our series on, well, it's just quick thoughts, just quick little opinions I have on things that I see going on in the culture. And today I wanted to talk about something that I very rarely talk about. It's sports. Now, I don't pay attention to sports anymore these days. There was once upon a time when I would watch football and kind of keep up with what was going on with maybe say the Eagles or something like that. But it has been eons since I've paid any attention towards any sports whatsoever, except for boxing. I really do enjoy boxing. I like Manny Pacquiao and watching some of his fights. Um, but beyond the odd boxing match, which I might tune into, although they're so outrageously expensive today, you have to shell out some $80 for a pay-per-view fight to watch. Watch it live, unless you want to catch it on YouTube later on. But anyway, so for me to be talking about sports, there would have to be something kind of dramatic going on. Uh, Something out of the ordinary and something that impacts the culture and my world. What could that possibly be? Well, anyone that's been paying attention to the NBA lately, which I never pay attention to, would have seen this whole scandal that's been going on with the NBA and China. And I don't really get into the NBA, as I said. I don't follow LeBron James, who's kind of been caught up in this controversy whatsoever. But it did strike me as a little dishonest and very striking, this double standard, this two-facedness that we see once again from the politically correct left. What do I mean by that? What's been going on generally, without getting into the details, getting slogged down in the details too much, is that the NBA has been refusing to take part in or allow any kind of conversation in regards to Hong Kong and China. Now, if you've been following world events, Hong Kong is rioting against the idea of communist China kind of taking over and usurping their liberties and their freedoms from them. The Chinese police force has had violent contact with the protesters in Hong Kong. There's a lot of Hong Kong Christians that are revolting or taking to the streets as well, because this would mean that religious freedom is also about to be swept away if China were to take over Hong Kong. It's something along those lines. I don't pretend to be an expert in all the nuances, the nuance of what's going on in China right now, but I do know that Hong Kong is. I mean, it's been in world news as far as the protest against communist China kind of taking over. China's trying to force Hong Kong to submit to their extradition of who they would consider criminals, so they would be able to just remove Hong Kong citizens, I imagine, and extradite them to China, to where they would be basically charged in what would amount to a kangaroo court. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and China is one of the greatest threats, I think, to liberty worldwide. I mean, they have their whole what you would call God system. I did a podcast on it a while back on this camera system that China has set up in some of their, I think Beijing or some of their larger cities, where it's a social grading system where citizens are viewed and watched by cameras 24/7, and if they were to step out of line in any way from the government's social justice code, then the government can see this on camera and use this grading system infractions against it to prohibit Chinese citizens from traveling or leaving the country for medical. Just anything. They can use it to limit citizens' freedom to move, to travel, to buy things, to do anything really. And so it's a frightening thing when you think about it. And if you think about such a system being used here in America, I think the groundwork has been laid, at least as far as our political correctness and our social justice warrior mentality, that the left has just kind of broadcasted out across the country using its massive megaphone, which is the media and the entertainment industry. So whether such a system will ever be physically put in place here, I don't know, and I certainly hope not. And what I mean by that is the camera system that China has. But there's no denying that the ideological reasoning for it, the ideological groundwork for it has already been laid and or is being laid here in America. In our education system, as I said, the entertainment system broadcasts this stuff, the political system with the progressive far left, the socialists in the Democrat Party. So this is, we as a country, we want to stay as far away from becoming or associating with China as possible. And yet here, what we have going on with the NBA is certain players or fans of the NBA are having their speech curtailed and cut off and censored when certain players or fans have shown support of Hong Kong. So you had some players during games holding up signs that say, "We support Hong Kong," and they were removed from the game. Certain players were asked questions during interviews about Hong Kong and what their thoughts on it were, and the reporters that were asking the questions were basically had their microphones taken from them and were told, no, this is the NBA. We're not here to answer political questions. China threatened to have NBA games and paraphernalia and stuff like that, sports apparel, banned from China. And so in response, the NBA has caved and said that and is now censoring and banning any kind of speaking out against in favor of Hong Kong and their protests. So now, as I said, anybody who goes to an NBA game and holds up a sign or a poster in support of Hong Kong gets removed from the game. Sports figures like Lebron James are refusing to support Hong Kong's residents who are standing up for freedom and are instead saying, "Oh no, there's nothing wrong with China. I don't get involved in things that are political." Here's the hypocrisy. These same type figures, these same type of athletic heroes were the same ones that stood up for the Colin Kapernick and others who were kneeling during the National Anthem. So the acclaim that these people, the LeBron Jameses of our sports world, are not in favor of getting involved in political issues is sheer hypocrisy and a lie. It is a double standard, and it's one that's monitored and influenced by their pocketbook, by the kind of money that is at stake. When it comes to something like China and Hong Kong, where LeBron James and others stand to lose tons of money, where the NBA stands to lose tons of money, then all of a sudden they don't want to get involved in politics. But where it benefits them or where it doesn't hurt the pocketbook, they are more than willing to stand up for Colin Kaepernick. Why is it that they have no problem with criticizing America and the American anthem and standing up in protest against it, our freedoms, but yet they will not stand in support of Hong Kong's residents who are standing up and fighting for freedom? They will not speak out against China, communist China. Why is that? Why is it that way? The only thing I can think of is it comes down to money, which just goes to show the soullessness of our culture today. The quivering cowardice of the NBA and the cowardice of people like Colin Kaepernick, who we call brave. Yet when we see what would really constitute true bravery, which is somebody like LeBron James standing to lose lots of money or maybe a lucrative deal with his team, or the NBA losing money in China. That would be true bravery to stand and take a stand for those in Hong Kong. No, they don't do that because it would hurt their pocketbook. This is just sheer hypocrisy. So I think the what's going on here is obvious. This double standard, money is what's really at stake here. This is not some they don't want to be involved in politics. They're just cowards. Okay. Well, that's my rant for today. Until next week. Good night, and God be with you.